Hello everyone, now you will hear a wonderful story that will inspire you, so please subscribe to the channel and like it. We're starting. The main castle was at the very top of the mountain. The only road to the main entrance was a narrow path that consisted of molten magma under the cracking crust of the earth. The intimidating view was complemented by clearly sculpted statues of demons, as if precisely from hell, which seemed to guard the palace from intruders, smoke cutting without a knife. And of course the main decoration of this scary picture, flying masters of this world, dragons gnashing their teeth. The main entrance to the castle was walled up with huge, sturdy, multifaceted balloons. The sharp as a blade curves were carved as if specially so that no one would dare even touch them. However, one of the sides of such a massive castle could not remain unaffected by time. The huge slabs of stone also had a tendency to crumble. That's why in one of the walls there was a small passage, through which it was difficult to pass because of the stone fragments. But it was possible nevertheless. A small company of 5 warriors firmly tread the half-destroyed road. Their goal is to slay one of the demonic kings who inhabit this castle. Of the 5 kings, they have already managed to defeat 3, with 2 more to go. As they approached the main castle of the Demon King, a small batch of dragons came upon them, which the 5 of them easily defeated. But when the company entered the castle itself, a whole army of demons swooped in, not easily dealt with. For such an endless stream of demons, they even had to use magic. Then wise Sen decided to use water magic and turn these creatures into stone. The unreliable Annis used blessing magic and cut down several of the enemies in one fell swoop. Brave Moron, on the other hand, decided to test his strength without the use of magic, and dueling several demons at once, chopped them all up with his invariable friend, the Iron Axe. 2 of the rest of the group decided it was a competitive game, with each one trying to outdo the other in the number of demon kills it could produce. Gamel was always jealous of Vermouth. They called each other rivals, though no one really felt that way. The servants were finished, but as soon as they relaxed, the Demon King's sharp blade came out of nowhere. His magic was about to strike Vermouth with its speed, but Gamel was there in time to cover his opponent with his chest. There was no time to think. Vermouth pounced on the king with all of his strength, using all of his magical spells, and Annis, Senna, and Moron were on their way to the half-dead Gamel. Vermouth was desperate. He believed that Gamel should not have saved him, and he blamed himself for his rival's death. In the last moments of his life, Hamel regretfully blamed only himself for mistreating his comrade. Vermouth promised his former rival that he would exterminate all demon kings, and swore to it in the warrior's name. Subscribe to the channel, thank you. The book closes abruptly and falls to the floor with a rumble. What nonsense, thought Gomel, cursing the author of the book for his nonsensical fictions, and a slight wave of negativity ran through his body for the prefix tied to his name. Gomel thought for a moment that his surviving comrades might have prevented the author from publishing such a book, but a sober view of the world said it was unlikely they could have known that the dead Gamel would be reborn and remember his past life. This guy is the same Gamel who died 300 years ago in the battle against the Demon Kings. Now, he is the reborn descendant of the warrior Vermouth 13-year-old Eugene Lionheart. When he was alive, he had several concubines in addition to his wife. The direct heirs of Vermouth are considered to be only the children of his wife. Eugene was not one of them. Therefore, he was forbidden to use real swords and conduct magical training before the blood rite. Because of this, Eugene had to train with a wooden sword. However, today, he holds it for the last time. During the training, Eugene's father appeared, amazed by his young son's form and strength. The father himself was frightened of him, for Eugene speaks and behaves far from a child. There was not an ounce of childlike innocence in his fierce eyes, though the boy had lost his mother early. He did not miss her at all. Eugene complained about the feckless blacksmith who was selling a kind of punching bag made of rotten planks. The rite of blood is tomorrow. Though the boy thought it was a retarded Lionheart family tradition, he couldn't miss it. Once every 10 years, all children between the ages of 10 and 15, from both straight and side lines, gather in the main family home, in a contest to determine which of them was most worthy of bearing the surname Lionheart. It was a shame to Eugene that straight-line descendants could train with real swords and develop their magical abilities even before the rite. Eugene's father felt sharply unhappy. He worried about his son, and dissuaded him from competing with the children of the main family. He believed that his son simply would not be able to protest to them, because they had been able to use any weapons and develop their inner magic since childhood. In his opinion, Eugene would not be able to compete with them because of the large gap in power and magical development. However, Eugene was completely confident in himself. He laughed at these words and the notion that some 10-year-olds would be able to match him. This time, 3 children from the main family, 1 by his wife and 2 twins by his concubine, would take part in the rite, as well as 5 from the sidelines, 2 from the relatively glorious branches, and 3 from the usual weak spooks. The next day, Eugene was already in the Lionheart family compound. In a past life, he thought he had a gift from above. As a child, He had no trouble learning anything new and developed his abilities faster than anyone else. But Vermuth himself always nailed Gamel for not making enough effort. Gamel used to think of Vermuth as an upstart, pretending to be the coolest and strongest. But he soon realized what real talent is. The great Vermuth is an almighty master who earned this nickname for his mastery of both the sword and magic. In his homeland, in the Empire of Kiel, Vermuth had the title of Duke, which he later abandoned. Even so, he was revered as a great warrior. As for the others, wise Sina is a trashy girl who received an invitation from the Mage Kingdom and became the youngest head of the Mage Tower. Reliable Anis is in fact a rotten wench who is now called a saint in the Holy Empire of Juris. There are even sacred scriptures that outline her teachings. The brave moron incredibly managed to establish his own kingdom. Until his death, they lived happily ever after. But why haven't all the demon kings been destroyed? Eugene was furious. Vermuth made a promise, but he never kept it. After Gamel's death, Vermuth made a peculiar agreement with the king, in the course of which the war ended and peace came, which has lasted for the last 300 years. Unexpectedly, an old man sat down with Eugene and, as if with a sneer in his voice, began to say that the boy would have a hard time in the main family house, not even suspecting how strong Eugene was. Finally, the carriage arrived at the main Lionshart family home. The welcoming ceremony was already prepared, but it was immediately clear to Eugene that it was not prepared for him. Eugene was the first to arrive, so Lord Godney escorted him to the guest house, where he was met by the lovely maid, Nina, who took charge of taking care of the boy's needs. But Eugene immediately smelled a catch in the form of the maid's nonsense that if he created any problems, the blame would simply be dumped on the boy. Despite possible unforeseen problems, Eugene decided to go to the training ground. At this time, the twins who had just arrived came out to the far side of the house. They came from the main Lionshart family, so they had the honor of wearing the lion emblem on the left side of their shirt, putting themselves above the others while belittling Eugene as well. They felt that a boy like Eugene, from a small country town in the west of the empire, had no place here. They chuckled, saying the boy would be more accustomed to wielding a rake than a sword, and decided to teach the boy a lesson. As Gamel in his former life, he'd never been lazy when it came to training. But in this life, Eugene has to try harder, no matter how hard the boy tortured his body. He was never bothered by illness, and most wounds healed in just a day. The abilities of a body with Vermuth's blood in its veins exceeded all expectations. That young maid stood beside the platform, admiring Eugene's strength and skills. However, she was hailed by the pair, the twins Zine and Seal, unceremoniously interfering with her blood brother's training. Eugene didn't like this arrangement right away, and called the twins names and told them not to interfere. Zine flew into a rage and ordered him to bow down immediately and apologize to him. In turn, Eugene was in no hurry to kneel down and apologize. Then the Zine twin challenged him to a duel. Truth be told, Eugene didn't want to waste any time, but still determined to show his place to the worthy major, accepted the challenge. It took less than a minute, and Zine was already on the ground, and Eugene was shaking his hands. Suddenly a man flew up to the training ground. As Eugene noted to himself, he had no lion crest on his chest, so it must have been a simple knight. Zine barely got up from the ground and immediately flew up to the man. The man turned out to be Mr. Zane's teacher, and his name was Hazar. Eugene told Hazar what had happened while the man assessed the boy with a look. Hazar's eyes widened from what he heard, and he immediately showed his honor by taking his apprentice and his sister away to heal their wounds. Over lunch, Nina, the maid, informed Eugene on his behalf that his blood brother's young master Deccan, Hans, and Jules would be arriving tomorrow at noon, and Masters Gargus and Desira would arrive tonight through the portal, which was not at all helpful to Eugene, who was expecting their arrival a little later. Master Hazar led Zine and Seal into the chambers of their mother, who made no secret of her displeasure over Zine. The woman beckoned Zine to come closer, and later severely reprimanded her son. Unwilling to see Zine again, the second wife told Hazar to take her son to training, and to train him until he was strong enough. To her daughter Tsil, she ordered her to befriend Eugene because he was strong enough to defeat her. The next day, 3 boys from the side branches arrived at the manor. Eugene ran to the ceremony when suddenly Nina stopped him, handing the Lord a festive shirt in passing, informing him that the 3 brothers and the patriarch had arrived. Refusing to put on his uniform, Eugene ran as fast as he could toward the main square. Subscribe to the channel, thank you. The patriarch's second wife, Anisilla, is standing next to Cain and Seal at the ceremony, so the woman in front of her must be the first wife, whose name is Thenis, with her son standing beside her. He is the eldest son of the main family, and the first claimant to inherit the title Lord Lionheart. The main gates open solemnly, and the patriarch Gillard Lionshart arrives into the palace grounds on horseback. Behind him slowly rode his younger brother, Kion. The patriarch of the Lionshart family has 2 brothers. The first is Guilford. He is already married and lives with his family. The second is Kion, who left his hometown with the patriarch without getting married. He returned with him only 3 years later. The first wife, as the head wife, came forward to greet her husband. The man approached them, congratulating his son on his success. Afterwards, he approached Zine and Sil without failing to praise them. Then the man approached Guilford, congratulating him on the birth of his son. Afterward, the patriarch approached the children of the side branch, inviting them to share a meal with him at the table. All the children of the Lionshart family gathered around the large dinner table. Next to Eugene were some of the most respected side branch children, Gargaz and Desira. However, all the children noticed one unfamiliar visitor who did not look like their blood brother. Seal asked her father about the uninvited boy at their family table. The patriarch introduced him as Robershin. He came from the Red Tower that is located in the kingdom of Aroth. Everyone arrived in shock. No one would have guessed that such an esteemed man would be sharing a meal with them at the same table. Eugene leaned over the table. He immediately picked up the connection between the master of the Red Tower and that very wise Sina from his past life. To be more exact, Robershin had been her third-generation apprentice. 300 years ago, Senna became the youngest green magic tower master in the history of the kingdom of Aroth. Not only did she help ordinary mages, she also took people from other towers as apprentices. She was not even stingy with advice for masters from other towers. To this day, the Green Tower Master and the Red Tower Master, Robershin, regard wise Senu as their great mentor. Eugene was pleasantly surprised. He could not have imagined that so soon he would come across someone else associated with his old companion. Your name is Eugene, right? Theanis told me that my son insulted the honor of you and your father. Yes, answered Eugene, but immediately decided to add that he held no grudge against Sine for it. Once again, the father reprimanded his son for being stupider than Eugene, and didn't even bother to apologize to him. Zine did apologize, but Eugene noted to himself that these words were forced words rather than words of remorse. After Eugene said that his father had only taught him the basics and that he had pumped up the rest of his power himself, everyone gasped. They didn't understand how such a boy, with no access to real steel weapons or magic, could defeat the Tsane himself. The doors swung open and maids appeared in the dining room with a variety of dishes on a tray. The rest of the dinner passed without incident, but afterwards, Patriarch continued his speech. The man talked about how there has been a lot of discrimination in the family lately. Under settled conditions, the children of the side families have little chance before the natives of the main branch. He felt it would be fair to watch not only his children, but all who bear the Lionheart surname. After all, the purpose of the traditional ritual of blood inheritance is to identify a worthy heir to the Great Vermin. It doesn't matter if he's a child of the main branch or of a side branch. Vermouth, it seems that your descendant is much kinder than you, Eugene thought to himself. So the patriarch decided to ask for help with Roburian's ritual. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for the next part.